Hi, good morning, and welcome to Elysian Fields. Bekah, good morning.
Good morning.
So this morning we're going to, as we announced on Facebook, have a conversation with Bekah Cloud, our very own admin, who normally is the one doing all these interviews.
Tables have turned.
We on purpose, because I think she has a great story to tell. And Bekah has, and she won't tell you this herself, but she has such a positive attitude and spirit. She's just an amazing individual, and she has a lot that she has to deal with. So I thought it'd be great to bring her on and share her story with you. So for some of you who may have some body positivity issues, this would be a great opportunity to listen to somebody who has lived that her whole life. And so with that, Beck, you want to tell us a little about yourself?
Sure, and thank you for all those kind words.
Yeah, of course.
I just feel so lucky to have come here and found this family here at Elysian Fields. I feel so welcomed and loved and supported. So my journey has been quite the wild one. Kind of a brief introduction. I was born in Oklahoma, but pretty much raised here in Sarasota, Florida. I've been shopping here at Elysian Fields since I can remember. I remember seeing the little eucalyptus boughs under my Christmas tree growing up and just getting so excited knowing where it came from. So Sarasota has my heart, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. I am a certified speech language pathologist. That's my what I went to school for. I have my master's degree. Been taking a little bit of a break from that. I am a yoga instructor. When I feel up to it, I'm an aerialist. I work now in the social media community doing body positivity work, a lot of mental health advocacy, some TikTok dances from time to time. And I'm just kind of trying to follow my heart, listen to my spirit guides, and kind of, I believe I'm here on the earth to be a healer. I believe I'm here on this earth to share my story, share my truth, in order to hope for others to feel a little less alone. I think Brené Brown is the originator of this thought that vulnerability cultivates connection, and connection cultivates healing. And so by speaking my truth, telling maybe some of the conversations that we're going to have today, my hope is somewhere out there might connect with my words and feel a little less alone, and maybe start to heal some of the scars that life has brought them.
You're not nervous, are you?
I am. I am. My voice is shaking a little bit.
A little bit. And you've never been nervous on camera before.
No,
so.
And I was like getting ready this morning. I was like, why am I nervous?
Yeah, I haven't seen you nervous before.
I know.
And, as Bekah just described, I mean, just an amazing human being. And her life path brought her to Elysian Fields, and we're very blessed to have her here. And she works a lot in the back room, so you don't get to see her a lot, although sometimes she's out here.
Sometimes.
But the energy in the back is just amazing, and that can be attributed to you. Thanks, Bekah. And so real quickly, tell us about what has impaired you. What is it exactly?
So I was born with something called Vater syndrome. It's spelled V-A-T-E-R, and each letter is an acronym for a birth defect that I was born with. The most visual one that you see if you walk in and you see me is severe scoliosis, and that's a curvature of the spine. Most people know it as something as in elementary school. You get checked at the nurse's office. Right. As you go through a growth spurt, sometimes a curvature can start to be formed. Mine I was born with. It's something I've always had. I don't know any different. And other things, I have spina bifida, which impacts my spinal cord and the nerve endings in my body. I have a single kidney, so I deal with a lot of kidney infections and some other chronic illnesses that Some I know no different. They've been there since the day I was born, and others have come about throughout my 32 years.
Yeah. Amazing, though, how you deal with that on a daily basis. So do tell me, when did you notice, at what age you remember back that you were, and I don't mean you're not different, but when did you start feeling that you were different?
I want to correct you. I am different. And I think that's something that I'm more recently kind of coming to accept. Even using the word disability was kind of like a faux pas for me growing up, because yeah, I knew I was different,
right,
but I super wanted to act like I wasn't. And so to answer your question, I think it was maybe like kindergarten, first grade, when other kids kind of started to notice it more and may point it out more. I think it may have been first grade. Something must have happened, that some kid may have said something, I don't know, that my mom ended up coming to class and kind of explaining, what is my differences and why that is, and and then I think it did become a non-issue, because kids are they're so open, and sometimes they just need explaining.
Right.
And so that's kind of my first memory of it being a thing.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I'm grateful for my parents in many ways, but the way that I was raised, being faced with so many challenges and so many differences, they never treated me any different way. I took dance classes with my sister. I was on the jungle gym. I was a monkey bars like queen. There was never any limits to me growing up, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I think it's been a kind of a core kind of belief that has allowed me to reach so high for these dreams that I have.
Right.
I never was taught to have self-limiting thoughts. But then, there are some times that it did need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And I would go, and it sounds silly, but I've kind of lost count, somewhere between 25 and 30 surgeries over my lifetime.
Wow.
And so a lot of those happened during summer breaks or winter breaks, and I would kind of go and get done what I needed to get done, and then back to school and back to dance class. And it just, I don't know, we were always aware that I had challenges, but we never really allowed that to stand in the way.
Right. Well, and by the way, I must repeat, wow, on your mom coming to class and explaining to the children. I think that's huge, because children, they're curious by nature, right?
Absolutely.
And they're honest by nature.
Yeah.
Right?
They
don't know any other way. And sometimes that honesty can feel, to the individual receiving it, very negative, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where I was going with that too, is wondering where it was. And as an adult, even I struggle sometimes. I don't like to call you that you have an issue, because I just don't, again, as an adult, I sometimes struggle with how to address someone who might have a disability, whether they want to feel like they don't have a disability. So therefore, do we ignore it?
Right.
Or do we how do we embrace that? And maybe that's the next question would be is, when you see somebody struggling to talk about it, or they're just uncomfortable with it, how do you handle that, and what's the conversation look like?
Honestly, I'm trying to figure that out still at 32. That, like I had mentioned, most of my life I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to address it, even to the point that it sounds silly, but like the way I would like pose in pictures, I'd try to like cover up that I have scoliosis and I could face this certain way,
Right.
and cover it up and not talk about it. And it's only just now recently that it's just like, I'm not going to change it. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely varies from person to person and wherever they are in their process.
Right.
Some people are very proud of having a disability, and I'm just now kind of stepping into that space. And others, they may not identify with that word. So I think it's when you see someone with a difference, or someone that might be facing challenges that you don't understand, I think it's just approaching it without assumptions. And I always, even just as simple as asking someone if they would like help, and not just assuming that, I mean, it's always nice to open the door for someone,
right.
But just, oh, would you like help with that, and not just assuming they can't.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Or assuming that they, identify themselves as disabled. Just even, I'm, like I said, I'm learning so much in my 30s, and meeting more people with disabilities, and even just like the words wheelchair bound versus someone who uses a wheelchair. The words we use, the way that we speak to people, matter.
Right.
They matter. So I guess to sum it up is I'm still figuring that out.
So is there anything that somebody, that if you could give any advice to somebody on how to bring it up? Is there, maybe I'm just regurgitating the same question again, but is there any good way of just approaching it, or just?
I think, I guess, allowing them to be in control of that conversation.
Yeah.
That if they want to bring it up, they will.
Right. Understood.
And, having just that sense of normalcy, creating a comfortable relationship, creating a safe space that if they want to talk about their differences, if they want to talk about their struggles, having that safe space for them to bring it up.
I think that's a great response, Bekah, because you're right. Sometimes we want to force a conversation that somebody may not be, why do I want to talk about that, right? And so we have to remember who we're talking to, and what might be right for them or wrong for them.
So I guess an example of that is, yes, my scoliosis is quite visible. There's me walking down the street, anyone can see that. And there are some times that people very unsolicited will come and offer me their wisdom of their, oh, have you tried this? Or, oh, this organization can help you. Or ask, I get a lot on the internet, people just asking very private questions. Can I get pregnant? How do you drive a car? How do you have sex? It's like, I don't know you.
Right.
Just because my disability is visible doesn't give you permission to pry and require explanations for things. Yes, you're allowed to be curious, but until we create a safe space and a relationship, why would I share those intimate details with you? So if you are just a stranger off the street and you come upon someone, you might have curiosities of what their disability is, or I wonder how they do this, but just because a disability is visible doesn't grant you permission to their private medical information.
Yeah.
And so it's, once you have a relationship with someone, like I feel very close with you. If you, and other friends in the community, yeah, if they want to have a conversation with me, I would feel open to sharing those things with them. But someone that comes off the street that just is curious about my sex life, that's not appropriate.
Totally not. And I love the explanation you just gave, because I think sometimes you're right, humans,
you're curious,
and
of
especially
course.
in an online world.
Yes.
I can't imagine. I'm glad I don't have access to see that, because I wouldn't want to see the kind of questions that people are asking that are way more private than they wouldn't want to answer those kind of questions themselves.
Right.
So
right.
I understand what gives them the right to ask them
right.
to begin with. And I think for me, Bekah, one of the things that it reminds me of, and as I age over the years, it's really my vision or my interpretation of beauty has changed. And you come to realize as you age, and not when you're 16, but when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you start realizing how much beauty comes from within, and people change their whole outlook on that person changes when you get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And you are such a beautiful person inside and out.
Thank you.
I just find it amazing that anybody would be anything but really positive with you, because you're just an amazing individual, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, so they could get to know you more, because they see you on the question side a lot, but they don't get to see you on the answer side a whole lot. And to me, it's eye-opening. And I also want to talk about the body positivity part of it.
Yeah.
Even since you've been here, you've done some things that have been real promoting that area, right? So you had tell us about your last year you had, I can't remember what it's called, fashion show.
Yes. Oh, that was so fun. I mean, to answer that question, and then we can kind of take a step back in how I got there. But I had the opportunity to be in a fashion show in Miami, and that was such an incredible experience for many reasons. One, it was just so fun. Fulfilling one of my dreams of being an official model. But it was also an opportunity to meet a lot of other people with a disability. For me living in Sarasota, and even in college, I might meet a couple people, but I hadn't really made really close relationships with other people that use wheelchairs or have chronic illnesses and are in and out of the hospital having the same types of issues that I have. And that was incredible. And I'm learning so much from them about being in the advocacy space and the content creation and all the things that I'm really wanting to delve into. So that it was just a really great, awesome opportunity. But kind of taking some steps back of, okay, how did I get to the point that I was able to walk on a runway in a fashion show? It hasn't been that easy. Growing up physically looking so different, and I think a lot of the times I was trying to hide from my disabilities and wanting to fit in and fit this typical standard of beauty. I struggled tremendously to the point that I developed an eating disorder. And there are a lot of things that contribute to someone ending up in that type of darkness. But like I said, I think a lot of it, I was trying to physically change my body in a body that isn't going to change. I can't starve my scoliosis away. I can't, control my spina bifida away. It's always going to be there with me. And there's other things, some trauma that I've dealt with over the years that I think led into that as well. But being a body positivity advocate, that didn't just happen. I really, really had to work on not trying to run away from things that are a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, disability or not, can identify with that. That there's a lot of things about our lives that we want to try to run away from and control, and that just it's not going to happen. You're fighting a battle that it's only hurting yourself.
Right.
You know, whether that's drinking, whether that's you know, there's so many different coping mechanisms that people develop over the years that we're just trying to numb or run away from parts of us that make us inherently us.
Right.
And so I've done a lot of therapy, and I've had to go into inpatient treatment a couple of times, and it was life-changing to be able to really delve in and get the support. And a couple of Fridays ago, had an amazing conversation with Cynthia here about really going back and identifying these things that change us forever, and loving them and surrounding them with support and hope and love, and realizing that you don't have to run away from them anymore. And that's what I've really been working on since you know, those inpatient treatment stays, and then more recently even just, you know, being in that runway show and meeting other people with disabilities. Is just like, these parts of myself that I wanted to run away from are actually the most beautiful parts of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And not be afraid to shine a light on them and be proud of it and say, I do have scoliosis and it's not going to go away. Mm-hmm. And I do have mental illness, and maybe it'll go away someday, but right now it's still a part of me. And I'm going to have good days, I'm going to have bad days. Same with, I deal with chronic pain. I fought tremendously just in a space of like, oh, this is never going to go away. I'm always going to be in pain. This is horrible. This is terrible. But it's just finding that place of acceptance of like, you know what, some days are going to be more painful than others, but those days that are less painful, I say on my TikTok, those are the days I dance. Mm-hmm. And those are the days that I have space to reach out and connect with my community. And those are the days that make life worth living. Mm-hmm. And not trying to just push it away and resist it. I don't want to have scoliosis. I don't want to have depression. It's like, okay, but I do.
Yeah.
Now what?
Right. So you're right. I did jump to almost the end story, and that was just to kind of bring that part up.
Yeah.
Because the body positivity part is really the topic here, and I want to go back again.
Yeah.
We're going to go backwards, rewind a little bit. When did you start, you know, at least thinking, this is what I want to do. I want to start helping others feel better about themselves. So I'm going to put myself out there. Because it wasn't last year. It's been longer than that.
Yeah.
And what helped you get across that bridge to start really feeling more positive about who you are in your own skin, and then start turning that outwards to others?
I think it has been a little bit of a slow progression. That when I started coming out of treatment for my eating disorder and feeling a little bit more confident in that, I graduated grad school. I started my career as a speech pathologist. I've always been a writer. I have always loved writing. I've always loved sharing on social media. I'm a millennial, so I grew up with MySpace and then Facebook and then Instagram. So sharing on social media has kind of always been a part of what I enjoy doing. So that always came a little bit natural, that I would share a little bit more and a little bit more. And then honestly, what really boosted me into it was when it was during the very beginning of quarantine. I downloaded TikTok just to dance with my sister. ended up kind of really gaining this following and started really seeing the ignorance that is out there.
Right.
And these people asking the absurd questions and, you know, very horrible, hateful things. And it was just like, oh, I think I need to do something about this. That if, while people are scrolling on their phones, just the sight of my body incites whatever emotion they feel, whether positive or negative, I have a space. I have this platform to do something with it. And whether that's education or advocacy or just representation, that when it shouldn't be shocking to see someone with a disability on your social media. It shouldn't be that shocking.
Right.
And so I think that's what kind of like blasted me into really feeling a purpose behind it of, okay, I've been through all of this. I have this platform now. What am I going to do with it? And then it just kind of it took off from there, and now I'm, you know, doing a little bit of modeling for a couple companies. I still really love writing. I eventually, you know, want to write a book. I'm, you know, passionate about, you know, providing yoga for people that yoga seems very far-fetched and very, you know.
Right.
So it's been this kind of steady progression that has felt really natural to me. But maybe over the last, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, even.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be a kind of a slow process because you got to get comfortable putting yourself out there too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, can you think of maybe one young lady or one young man that might have the same issues as you, that reached out to you, that kind of touched you? Like, because you touched them in a way that made them feel, wow, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Right? Can you think of that individual and maybe tell us how that came about?
Yeah, I'm fortunate that for as much horrible hate comments I get, those messages that I get or those comments that I get that are positive are the reason I keep posting. I've had, I think, the first one that comes to mind was actually a mom that reached out that had, I think, 14, 15-year-old daughter that has severe scoliosis. Our builds are very similar. Short torso, long, lanky legs and arms, short neck. And her and her daughter had just started doing yoga together. And so the mom ended up reaching out to me and sent me this incredible message that seeing me do my yoga, seeing me, you know, like I said, put a spotlight on my differences and not be afraid to press post, gave her a lot of hope that her daughter's current struggles with school or the kids or the social dynamics that she currently was going through won't last forever. And she was just so thankful, and the words that she shared meant so much to me and gave me so much purpose. I've also, you know, had, you know, the young women themselves reach out to me and kind of say the same thing, that it just meant so much to see someone that looks like them.
Right.
And that's how I felt as a 32-year-old. I've met a couple. I'm now on this Facebook group of people with Vater syndrome. It's such a rare, small disorder that without the internet, I probably would never meet someone else with it.
Right.
I've also been able to meet and have a group text going with some of the girls that have had a similar bladder surgery that I have. And now we kind of text about, some intimate things that,
Right.
maybe you wouldn't talk about with anyone else. Right. And so as much as there's so much negativity in social media, there's so much positivity and connection and intimate conversations that wouldn't happen otherwise. But to answer your question, that message from the mom, and she sent me pictures of her and her daughter doing yoga together, and we look exactly alike.
Really?
Oh my gosh, so similar. And the fact that she was just beginning her yoga journey, and she was able to share my page with her daughter, who wasn't comfortable making her own social media account yet. Mm-hmm. It gave me so much purpose.
I can imagine how inspirational that would be, right, for her and for you.
And for me.
And for you, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that could be the driving force behind why you're continuing to do this journey, because
absolutely,
with the obstacles you're going to face, both physical and emotional, mm-hmm. from people asking why you're doing this, right? Why are you putting yourself out there?
Yeah.
That can be a real stumbling block to some.
Yeah.
And make them want to I'm not going to do it anymore because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never expect Bekah to do that, because Bekah just seems like you're like a tank. You just keep going forward, and nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah.
And I love that about your energy. It's truly amazing, and you're an amazing human being, as I mentioned.
Thanks.
And I just really can't wait to see what next comes for you, because I just feel like there's so much bigger for you to come. Much bigger for it to come yet.
I feel that too. Mm-hmm. And I'm still in the process of figuring that out. I mentioned before, I'm trying to listen to my guides, mm-hmm. and really find exactly what is next for me. I am really passionate about making yoga accessible and approachable. And I would really love to do one-on-one yoga coaching with not just people with disabilities, but anyone who struggles with body issues or mental health issues, that just yoga is to them, putting your toes to your head. And it's just like, oh, it's not right. about that. And I feel these one-on-one conversations and my ability to really connect with people one-on-one is where I thrive. Mm-hmm. And I would really, really love to begin that journey of providing one-on-one yoga, mm-hmm. Therapy and coaching for people that struggle with a lot of the similar things that I do, and share what yoga has done for me and in reconnecting with my body. And but who knows?
Right.
Who knows what is going to come next?
Right.
I'm open. Whatever
they bring to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with that said, how can people reach out to you? I mean, so your different platforms are. Just go through those over TikTok.
Sure. On TikTok, I'm at Bekah Cloud. Instagram, I'm at LB May, which stands for Little Bekah May. It's what I went by in college when I created the account. I'm on Facebook, just Bekah Cloud. I have a YouTube channel. I think it's just Bekah Cloud as well. I'm pretty easy to find if you just Google my name. I'm lucky to be kind of one of the top links. So I'm always open. My messages are always open. Mm-hmm. I always look at them. I always reply. And I just love connecting and having conversations and going back to our, being that safe space
right.
for people. And whatever they're going through, I think is one of my purposes.
Yeah, and so that brings me to this question too, Bekah, is So for somebody we go back in time for you, like,
Yeah.
if there's somebody struggling that's watching right now, right?
Yeah.
What's the first step that they can take for themselves that really to make themselves feel better, right? Because it's, as you say, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And so you got to start to accept it, even though you got a world around you that may not.
Totally.
Right? There's challenges everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But what's the first step they can take for themselves? Because they're gonna. There's all kinds of things you just went through, right? You had some depression. You what else was there? You went into a rehab, I think you said.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on you to be normal.
Yeah.
And so that person out there is just now trying to find their way out, right? They're trying to crawl out, claw their way out, whatever it is.
Yep.
What's the first thing they can do to really help themselves?
I'm a huge advocate for therapy. That if you were able to catch the conversation I had with Cynthia, therapy luckily is becoming more and more accessible. You know, there's online therapy that if you physically can't get out of bed, and there's days that I can't, I can open my laptop and have a conversation with my therapist from my bed. And there are so many other things that I can go into, you know, having a support system, having even just one person that you can call and talk to. Writing has been a huge part of my healing journey. Connection, all of those things. But if you're asking me what is one thing that has helped me and that I would say is a good place to start, is therapy. And being able to talk to someone who is a safe space. They're qualified, they've gone to school for this. You know, there's people like family and friends that are incredible to talk to, but these people, they have their degree, they know what they're doing, and can really get to those core beliefs that growing up different, or whatever happened to get you to that dark place where you feel like you can't come out. That didn't just happen. Things led you to that place. And so to be able to talk to someone and start addressing what got you there, and then what are the steps to climbing out, I think is the number one place to start.
Yeah, and I also, and you can correct me here.
Yeah.
There's lots of issues on social media just in general being negative, but I think some of the positives of it is that you can connect, as you mentioned earlier, with people like yourself.
Yeah.
Or with people with different disabilities, that you're all in the same, I don't want to say in the same, you're kind of in the same club, right?
Yeah.
You're facing very similar issues, no matter whether your issue is spina bifida or it's, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Right? Loss of legs.
Yeah.
There are lots of things and lots of people out there that want to help, that have gone through it, been through it, like yourself, that those out there don't have to feel so alone.
Yeah.
Right? They can reach out. They can reach out to you.
Always.
They can reach out to others like you that are out there promoting that and get some help.
And my advice for that is you're in control of your newsfeed. That it can be as toxic or as healthy as you want it to be. And I unfollow if something gives me an icky feeling, I unfollow, I block. If I see something or someone that gives me that boost of hope or that boost of motivation, I follow, I comment. Maybe even I send them a message that who knows, they may not even read, but I want to let them know that they made my day better. And sometimes they reply, and sometimes that can turn into a relationship and a friendship. And, you know, like I said, now I have this group message of girls that no one else in the world knows what it's like to live with this particular issue, but the 4 or 5 of us. And that's life-changing. Going back to just not feeling alone. no matter, I have to remind myself, no matter what I'm feeling, there's however many million people in the world, someone else has gone through it, and they've gotten through it. And they've woken up the next day, and they've faced whatever that day has brought them. And so seek out those people. Send them a message, comment, whatever it is, so you can cultivate your social media. And if it is feeling yucky and toxic, you can take a break, but you can also change that around and unfollow and block. And my advice would be send those messages.
Right. And I think for everybody else, I think just remembering that.
Yeah.
And also if you're normal,
Yeah.
it's just being aware, right? That people have feelings, right? And none of us are perfect, but we need to, at the end of the day, we're just souls in this body for a short amount of time. And we should be here to bring joy to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding of everybody.
And on that same thought, if you are someone that doesn't have a disability or doesn't have the struggles that we've talked about today, go and still seek those people out and follow them. Have those conversations. Representation does matter. And the more you diversify your news feed, or as you're scrolling, the more you diversify your friend group that you spend time with, I feel like the better understanding you have of other people's experiences, and the better you can understand the world that you're living in. That like I said, I'm still vastly learning about the disability community, because mine is just one sole experience, and there's so many more out there.
Right. Well, I'm so glad you joined us today. I think if nothing else, you learned about Bekah and what an amazing human being she is.
Thank you.
And at most, maybe you'll find some help out there if you're struggling and need help. And you can always reach out to Bekah. And she's here in store most of the time.
Please do. Yeah. Even if I'm not out on the floor, you can ask someone. I'm usually in the back, and I'd be more than happy to come and give you a hug if you're comfortable, or just introduce you, or meet each other. And like I said, my messages are always open. I feel like it is one of my greatest purposes to share my story and connect with people that may be feeling alone.
Thank you so much, Bekah. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great day and a nice weekend coming up.
Yes, take care.